Shabbat Shalom. I want to share with you today a wonderful insight that I saw in the Chumash Masoret Harav, the Rav of Soloveitchik, his commentary on the Torah, which has come out already in 3 volumes. Wonderful insight, which I will explain in my own way and take it a bit further because I think it has important relevance to us today. Concerns, of course, Yitzchak, our forefather Isaac, who's the main hero of this week's parsha, and we have to go back to his birth in Parshat Vayera. When he was born, his mother Sarah said, "Kol hashamea al tzchok asali Elohim." God has made a tzchok. Tzchok means laughter. But the question is, what kind of laughter? There are all sorts of laughter. People laugh for different reasons. Rashi, following Onkelos, renders the tzchok chedva, which in Aramaic and in Hebrew means the same thing, joy. It was a laughter of joy. People were very happy because, as Rashi tells us, when not only Sarah, but many, many women around the world at that time who hadn't been able to conceive and give birth, gave birth. Others say it's chok shel timahon, this type of thing when you hear something that's amazing, that you hadn't expected, so you laugh. But others, such as Targum Yonatan, translated in perhaps I know we'll call it literal translation, but it's a different type of laughter, or laughter of derision. They were deriding not so much Sarah and Yitzchak, but they were laughing at Avraham and at the very notion that he thought that he would now have an heir who would carry on his great work. Avraham had undertaken a tremendous project to spread the knowledge of God and to build a community of people who were committed not only to worshiping God and to living upright, moral, ethical lives. And of course, when you do things like that, you run into opposition. People will make fun of you, and they had thought that this too shall pass. This project of Avram can't maintain itself beyond Avram's own lifetime. And when Avram had at long last, at the ripe old age of 99 or 100, finally had a son who we thought, well, this will carry on the great work that he's been doing. They scoffed at it. Now, but as we see in this week's parsha, Toldot, Yitzchak proved them wrong. As Yitzchak grew up, he continued the great work of his father. He continued to spread the belief in God, knowledge of God, the ideals that his father Avraham had been pressing far and teaching humanity, those who were willing to listen, teaching to them. And what happens is that as the people saw that Yitzchak was in fact doing exactly what Avraham had hoped and carrying on the work in building this community of believers and people living upright, moral lives, the derision changed to opposition and hatred. And this is expressed in what our parsha tells us, that all the wells that Avraham had dug were filled in by the Philistines, or Palestines. The wells, of course, could have been the literal sense, wells that he had dug where he had found water for his flock. But of course, it has a symbolic or an allegorical meaning. These are the well springs of knowledge and morality, which Avraham had opened up and developed and begun to share with his followers. And once these evil people saw that Yitzchak was in fact carrying on the work that Avraham had begun, they filled them in. But Yitzchak, in the end, prevailed. He redug them, and the Torah tells us that there were, 3 wells which he dug. The first 2 led to conflict with the Philistines, and Yitzchak decided not to fight with them, but to try his luck somewhere else. And eventually, the third one, Lo Ravu Aleh, there was no conflict, and he called it Rehovot. Rehovot, of course, being now a very important city in Israel and the place where the Weizmann Institute is located. And the Rav leaves us with this thought, which I will read to you from the Chumash Mesoret Harav. He says, jealousy, as usual, leads to oppression and persecution, but also brings about respect. They began to hate Isaac, but they also began to respect him. In this attitude towards Isaac, we may discern the first victory of Abraham's house. It is better to be an object of jealousy and hatred, which lead to respect, than an object of pity, which is always accompanied by derision and contempt. Important lesson for our own day. We Jews have been the subject of vicious, violent, murderous attacks, and which are downplayed or censored out of the media because doesn't fit the narrative that CNN and others want to spread about who are the really oppressed in this world and who are not. And sometimes we get very angry and we want to show them these horrible scenes of teenage girls who have been cut to pieces by vicious murderers, and of course it's not fitting for a news broadcast because that's not the story that they're being told to present. But I think we ought to also remember that we shouldn't always just be talking, trying to raise pity. We are not the people of the Holocaust. We are the people of Abraham. We are the people of the Torah. We are the people who have tried to present to the world a way of life, a moral, ethical way of life, which of course demands of us a higher degree of behavior. Any slip, and unfortunately we've had some very serious slips or miscues or much worse than that in our own day from our own people, are terrible because it ruins the work of generations of teaching. But we should be less concerned about trying to get people to pity us, which leads only to derision, and to press forward with our agenda, with what we have come to bring to the world. And if it leads to resistance and jealousy and hatred, so be it. We will stand up to it and prevail, and in the end, we will be respected for that. So I hope I hope that the Rav would agree in some degree anyway with the lesson I'm trying to take from his very wonderful insight in the Torah in today's parsha. And good Shabbos.